calling Islam a lie, referring to the Qur'an as poison, advocating for the closure of Islamic schools and mosques, supporting a ban on the Qur'an, promoting anti-Islam rhetoric and propaganda.
En homofoob geweld, vele getieren onder Marokkanen. De legitimatie voor deze ellende, de islam.
Verzoekt de regering haar angstige en politiek correcte houding ten aanzien van de islam te laten varen en de negatieve invloed van deze kwaadaardige ideologie die moet worden tegengegaan. Verzoekt de regering de islam zoveel mogelijk uit Nederland te bannen en gaat over tot de orde van de dag.
That was me back then. This is me now. I'm no longer a member of the far right. Ironically, the thing that made me join the far right is the same thing that made me leave. It was Islam. And this is my story.
Welcome to my channel. Today I have an inspiring and interesting story of conversion for you. The title is, From Anti-Islam Politician to Muslim Convert, Joram van Klaveren's Journey. Joram van Klaveren, a former Dutch politician, was once a prominent figure in the far-right Party for Freedom PVV. From 2010 to 2014, he served as a member of parliament, advocating for anti-Islam policies and making public statements denouncing Islam as a lie, and the Quran as poison.
Islam is a lie. Islam is a danger.
However, while writing a book about Islam, he began to question his beliefs and eventually converted to Islam. Joram van Klaveren's political past is marked by his association with the far-right Party for Freedom PVV in the Netherlands. During his time as a member of parliament from 2010 to 2014, he was known for his anti-Islam and anti-immigrant stance, often making headlines with controversial statements and proposals. Some notable aspects of his political past include anti-Islam rhetoric. Van Klaveren frequently spoke out against Islam, calling it a lie, and the Quran poison. Anti-immigrant policies. He advocated for strict immigration laws and supported the PVV's platform to limit the influx of immigrants and asylum seekers. Support for Geert Wilders. Van Klaveren was a close ally of PVV leader Geert Wilders, who is known for his extreme views on Islam and immigration. Proposals to ban the Quran. Van Klaveren suggested banning the Quran and shutting down Islamic schools and mosques.
Before I was a Muslim, I was a Protestant Christian from the Reformed Church. We read from the Bible, we all got biblical names, we were all baptized, we went to church, etc., etc. So we're pretty Christian in that way, in that sense. Of course, I believe that there is a creator, I believed in heaven, hell, I believed in angels, revelations, and of course what separates the Christians from the Muslims is that I believe that Jesus Christ was the Son of God. Yeah, in a more philosophical way, I believed he was God himself, of course. I believed in the resurrection and crucifixion of Christ, of course, and I believed in the atonement. But because the Trinity is a very complex concept, whether you believe it or not, it's still very complex, because if there is a God in the Bible, it says God is eternal. But if you are eternal and you die, you cannot be eternal, immortal at the same time. So that was something when I was a little older, 16, 17, I started questioning things like that. It's not very logical. I talked to many priests, preachers, even rabbis, and the answers I got weren't very satisfying. That made it for me kind of complex, and in the end I had some doubts about stuff like this, but I said, well, I set it aside and I thought, okay, I just believe it, and perhaps I'm not smart enough to get the whole picture. And I still believed in God, I still believed that Jesus was a very important person, I believed he was the Son of God, but how it exactly was, I left it for what it was.
Joram van Klaveren's decision to write a book about Islam was a significant turning point in his life. At the time, he was still a member of the PVV and intended to write a critical examination of Islam, reinforcing his party's anti-Islam stance. However, as he delved deeper into his research, he encountered credible sources and scholars who challenged his preconceptions. He discovered the true teachings of Islam, beyond the distorted media portrayals. He began to understand the rich history and cultural heritage of Islamic civilization.
After high school, I went to university and I did comparative religion. And the remarkable thing, I think, was that the first day of me going to college was September 11, 2001. Already thought, okay, these Muslim guys are kind of crazy and this religion isn't the truth. Then a few years later was this guy in the Netherlands called Theo van Gogh. He was a famous filmmaker and he was killed in the street. He was shot and they tried to slit his throat and they put a knife in his stomach with a letter on it for another girl. Yeah, and Hirsi Ali, and it said, "You are next." So it strengthened my anti-Islam feelings in such a way that I thought, well, I have to become politically active to do something and stop this evil of harming our country. That was the reason that I wanted to write a book, to explain to people why Islam was a danger for the world. When I was writing my book, like I said earlier, the questions, the doubts I had about Christianity popped up again. And that was about truth, of course, because I was a believing Christian guy. And yeah, the Christian questions I had in the end were answered in an Islamic way. Because, of course, when I started writing the book, a lot of people think that it was a political book, but it wasn't so much a political book, it was a religious book, because I wanted to show people why Islam was a danger as a religion, and I wrote it from a Christian perspective. So in the beginning I made a comparison between the Christian concept of God and the Islamic concept. So I started comparing it. But because I had these doubts about the Trinity, and I saw Tawheed, the oneness of God in Islam, I thought, yeah, it sounds a little bit more logical. And then I thought to myself, well, I reread the Bible to refresh myself and see, okay, why isn't the concept of Islam, the Tawheed concept, isn't the Christian concept? But when I was reading the Old Testament and I saw what the Old Testament prophet said, it was one God, one God, one God. And then I thought, okay, I'll look only at the words of Jesus Christ in the New Testament. And then there's this story in the New Testament where a guy comes to Jesus and he asks him, what is the most important thing in life? How can I gain paradise? And he says there are two things. He says, "Hear, O Israel, hear, your God is one. Treat your neighbor as you want to be treated yourself." So I thought, well, even Jesus Christ says, "Hear, O Israel, your God is one." So I thought, well, this whole Muslim concept of God sounds more logical, and it's the same concept that I find in the Old and the New Testament. And I know Christianity as a religion teaches something else, but it isn't the concept of God that I find in the Bible. So after weeks and weeks of study, rereading all kinds of books, I thought to myself, okay, perhaps this oneness of God is something that is true. So that's how it started.
Van Claveren stated about Prophet peace be upon him
that Prophet Muhammad perhaps is a prophet too. So I was doubting it. So first I thought, well, it's the most evil person I know because of the history. Then I said, well, perhaps it's not that evil, but he's not a prophet. And in the end I started doubting, perhaps he is a prophet. Yeah, that took, of course, me reading a lot of books again. And the one thing that I think was very wise of Abdul Hakim Murad to say was, he said, well, the books you read about with the anti-Islam arguments are written by non-Muslims. He said, if you want to know more about Christianity, you don't read books from atheists. You start reading the books from the Christians. Why do they believe this? What are the arguments? So that you have to do the same with Islam. So start reading Islamic books from Islamic teachers, from Islamic scholars, etc. And then you can see, if you compare the books on the same topic of people who are Muslim and wrote those books and non-Muslim, you can see where they took the wrong turn, where they translated words in the wrong way, sometimes perhaps even not on purpose, but just because they didn't know, where things are added, where things left out of it. So, and in the end, you see there's this other religion almost created because of all these things. And that's what I did. And that's what I also did with the life of the Prophet, because I read a book from Martin Links, The Life of the Prophet, based on the earliest source of Muhammad. And it was written, of course, by a convert. And his way of reasoning, his way of telling, his way of writing appealed to me because it's culturally the same thing. How do I approach a certain topic, etc. And it was the first time that I saw him not so much as a warlord, because that's the picture I had in my mind, but I saw him as a father, and I saw him as a friend and a teacher, and so much more. And so, yeah, I saw the person and his character, and I said, well, I can say a lot, but I cannot say that this is not a good man. So his character persuaded me to read more and to want to know more. I see his character, I see the way he treated other people, I see how he treated his enemies. I think he is a prophet. But then I thought to myself, whoa, that's horrible, because I already accepted this oneness of God, and now I say he is a prophet. If I say there is only one God and Muhammad is his prophet, that's almost shahada.
The verses which changed his heart was
22, ayat 46. And it says, it's not the eyes that are blind, but the hearts. And I thought to myself, that really is my problem, because it wasn't the eyes. I really could see what I written down myself. Nobody forced me to write this book. Nobody said you have to write this or that. I started writing myself, and I could see it with my own eyes, but I still couldn't accept the fact that I said he is a prophet, there is this one God. I just couldn't. So it wasn't my eyes that were blind, but it was really my heart. I couldn't accept it. I think my nafs or whatever, my ego, I couldn't accept it. And I said, well, God, I don't care if it's the God from the the Bible or the Qur'an. Give me a sign or something so that I 100% sure know this is the way. And I went to bed, but when I woke up, I felt very secure in myself. I really felt very secure. I've never been more secure about anything else. The whole anxiety or the whole doubting issue, it disappeared like snow for the sun. And I thought to myself, well, I think I'm a Muslim. Well,
May Van Klaveren's story inspire us to seek knowledge and understanding. May we learn to challenge our own biases and assumptions. May we embrace diversity and work towards a more inclusive world.